West Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my co-host Melissa Wallace and I will provide you with my team's unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We value the experience of our agents at Boston Connect Real Estate so much that not only will you hear my perspective on real estate topics, occasionally you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of our experienced agents at Boston Connect Real Estate. Be a part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We'd love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you like to listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with me at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate.
And hello to all my South Shore neighbors. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Melissa Wallace, and I am joined by full-time realtor here at Boston Connect Real Estate, Emmie Flaherty.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for joining me.
I know. Well, you know I never say no.
I know. You never say no. I know. I was like, I have a couple slots. And you're like, I'll take them all.
I love being on the radio. It's fun.
I know. And we have fun. I called in this morning and talked to, not Rob. He was not in this morning, but I talked to Larry. And I said, yeah, we always have fun when Emmie comes on and we're talking, whatever. But then he kept asking me about my house, which I greatly appreciate. But I was like,
wonderful.
but also Emmie is on. You know, I kept saying that. But, and here you are. You're on.
I am.
You are. You have joined us in the past, but why don't you reintroduce yourselves to all of our listeners tonight?
Sure. So I am Emmie Flaherty. I am a full-time realtor here at Boston Connect. We are live to you tonight from our studio at our beautiful office in Pembroke Center. If you're interested in connecting with me about all things real estate, it's 781-217-4580.
Yeah. And you live here in Pembroke.
I sure do.
You sure do. And it's a new year.
It is.
It's a new year. I don't know if it's a new you, but it's a new, what's new in your business?
Lots of stuff, actually.
Lots of stuff? Yeah.
Well, the good thing is rates are coming back down, interest rates. So I have already seen, I'm not even kidding, it was like the day after Christmas. People are like, okay. So I've been hearing from a lot more people and talking real estate, which has been awesome.
A lot of buyers?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of buyers, you know, they waited it out. Some of these people I was working with in October, but as the, rates kept inching up, they just said, you know what, we're going to wait until after the holidays, but they're back and that's awesome.
Yeah, Sharon asked me today if I have looked at any houses that were going to be in my price range, and I was like, well, no, now because I bought a house. But I said to her, I was like, weirdly enough, once I got my accepted offer on my house, I stopped looking at houses.
Yeah.
Because I know myself, I would overthink it and be like, oh, this other house came on, and she was like, well, don't you love your house? And I was like, well, yeah, I love my house, but I just didn't want to look at anything else because I didn't want to feel any other way other than being excited about where I'm going to be and where I am. But
that's super common. It's funny because I can see when my clients are looking on MLS, and that's usually typical. Once they have an accepted offer, they don't do anything for.
Yeah, I didn't want to look at anything. My focus was my house and making sure I made it to the closing table.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, the interest rates are going down, and I think that I wouldn't have stopped looking had I not found a house. But I was definitely at the point where I was like, all right, feeling a little defeated type of thing. And I'm sure there are a lot of buyers that were feeling defeated. But with lower interest rates and still not a lot on the market, that means more competition. So
exactly.
And we always say the right time to buy or right time to sell is when you're ready. And we're hoping that more people are ready to sell.
We are. Oh, tell me about it.
This year now. I keep saying next year, but I'm like, it's already 2024. So, but what I said on the show this morning with Larry was a lot of the times our topics come for our radio show sort of naturally in the office. So, there's some things that happen to us in our business or here at the office, and we get to, sort of talk them through with everybody. And I know that, maybe there's some instances that might have happened that brought up this idea for you. But when I asked you what you wanted to talk about, this is what you wanted to talk about. So why don't you tell everybody what it is that we're talking about?
Awesome. Well, I think that there are some people that are coming back into the market. If you put it off a couple of years ago, when it was kind of crazy. I, for example, have a lot of people who were looking to sell their current home and buy. And during COVID, even towards the end of it, when rates were so low, it was crazy and it was very hard to sell and buy at the same time. So basically, I'm reaching out to those people now and saying now is an opportune time. And as a result of that, I'm, starting to re-educate them on the process. I met with a couple new buyers this past week, actually, that their goal is to become a homeowner this year. So where I'm going with this is when I meet with clients, I stress the importance of knowing the role of what your realtor does for you. And we actually, we are going to go into more detail with this, but the topic tonight is the importance of using a buyer's agent and a seller's agent and the different roles that each performs, because it is different and a lot of people don't know.
Well, we sort of do this show maybe once or twice every year, but it's important because we get new listeners hopefully every single week, but
right,
we get new listeners throughout the year, and maybe they didn't hear it in the past or they don't go on the podcast and look at listen to the past shows. But like anything else, like any other industry, we also go through some changes.
Right.
So there are some things that we, like to abide by because it's the law. So there's some things that we are, educated on and updated on, and we want to educate and update you guys. So, we'll sort of backtrack a little bit and say, a buyer's agent and a seller's agent. So why don't you tell everybody what a buyer's agent is and what they do?
Absolutely. So a buyer's agent is just that. It is an agent that is working for you as a home buyer. A lot of times I deal with a lot of buyers, so they'll reach out to me and say, can you help me find a home? And basically in saying that, you are asking that person to represent you as their buyer's agent. And when we go out, so it's so much more than what you see on television. And I always tell my clients that when we're consulting, when you're watching TV, you see, this smiling person taking people to a house, they show a few, and then the people pick one, and that's all that you see. And there's so much more to it than that. So when you're hiring a buyer's agent and working with an agent, you're choosing someone that you know, like, and trust to help you get into a new home.
Yeah.
And in doing so, we're setting you up on MLS to receive property matches, taking you out on showings. I point out a lot of things that I don't think first-time home buyers are going to notice, because they're looking, they're in their head thinking, where's my furniture going to go? How can I see myself living here? When I'm looking for things like water damage, broken seals on windows, etc. So we help with that. And then to me, one of the biggest parts of the whole thing as a buyer's agent is, we sit down and figure out what you're comfortable with offering. And in part of that, I'm doing a market analysis. So I'm looking at what else has recently sold similar to this property, so I can best advise you as to what I think it's worth. So in doing all of that, this is all done behind the scenes and people don't see it. I submit that offer for you after you've signed it, we've reviewed it, and then we negotiate. That's when the role of the seller's agent comes in. The seller's agent and I are going to each discuss individually and separately with our clients, and then we're going to come together on a consensus and price.
I also think that it's important to note that, a buyer's agent and a seller's agent can also be the same person. So that's a dual agent. So
right.
Well, I guess I can't say there's no. There are some agents that prefer to only be buyer's agents. There's some agents that prefer to only be listing agents. However, most agents can represent both. They like to represent both. So they might be working with a couple buyers, but they also have listings. So they're the listing agent. So it's not just like, oh, are you a buyer's agent or you're a seller's agent? You're an agent, but depending on what role you're playing for that particular person. last Saturday, Sharon and I did our show on buying and selling at the same time, but more specifically when it comes to new construction, because, Sharon has done that quite a few times in the past 22-ish years, 23 years that she's been, a broker and real estate agent, representing when it comes to new construction, a buyer comes in, but they have something to sell, and sort of just going through the motions of, timeline wise, not just that, but representing, I'm representing the builder, but you want to be represented as, a buyer as well. So then you get representation for that. It can be convoluted.
It can be. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation tonight, because a lot of confusion that I see and that I try to help people understand, because at the end of the day, it's in your best interest.
Yeah.
Is a lot of times people, home buyers, shoppers, et cetera, will go to an open house and they will obviously learn about the property from the agent who is listing the home, and in that case, the seller's agent. But at the end of the day, I try to stress the importance of working with a buyer's agent, because that person, the listing agent, represents the seller on that particular property. Yeah. So I try to get my clients to understand that, it is very important to have a buyer's agent, because we can work together to get you the best deal for that property.
Yeah, and I like how you just talked about going into an open house. So, there is this theory out there that when buyers go to an open house or see a listing with the listing agent, they think that they might get a better deal because they're using the same agent. Well, if they're not representing you, like you aren't being represented. I mean,
right.
That's the end of the
right.
The end of the story. That person is representing the other side of your
right.
deal. So, you do have the right to ask for representation. And I think that the question should be asked even before you see a property.
Right. I agree. I mean,
I'm glad you agree with me.
I do. Well, it makes me think of two things. First of all, it makes me think of, cops when they're telling you have the right to be represented, and it's true. Like, if you leave anything from, listening to us tonight, it's that you are 100% entitled to have someone represent you. And to some people, maybe that's not important. But if you're working or talking to a realtor, they're going to tell you the importance of it. And it's because we do this for a living. I love to negotiate. I enjoy the process. A lot of people don't. A lot of people ask me how I do this, because it involves a lot of negotiating. And I quite frankly enjoy it. But I wouldn't go into court and not have representation. So, and I also wouldn't have the same attorney as the person on the other side in court. So, I'm a big fan of analogies, but that's exactly how I would say to look at it. There's nothing wrong with having someone represent you, and there's a lot of benefit to it.
Yeah. It's Sharon. Sorry, I don't mean to be rude. I am listening to you. I'm
I'm
just not looking at you. Sharon texted me, and I just had to respond with, "Do you have a delay?" Because I don't know. We already talked about this, but she just said discuss how you don't have to be the listing agent for the best deal. But that's what I just said. Wasn't
That's
it?
right.
Yeah. So you really don't. I can't hear what you're saying if you're yelling, but you really don't. Again, like I said, you need to ask the question in order to be represented, or the agent needs to ask you that question.
Right.
Would you like to be represented as a buyer in this scenario? And if not, then Godspeed.
Here's a scenario. Let's say you're the listing agent, Mel, and your client has said, "Melissa, I'm not selling this home. It's not worth it to me to sell this property unless you get me $550,000. Let's say this person comes into your open house. In the back of your head that your client wants $550,000, and this unrepresented buyer says, gee, what do you think the best price your client would do is?
Mm-hmm.
What is your motivation there? Your motivation is to get them $550,000. Whereas if they had a buyer's agent, I could come in, or whoever is representing them, and say, gee, looking at all of the numbers and what's recently sold, this realistically it probably is better suited for 525, 530.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously you're going to push towards that 550.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's better from the buyer's perspective? To have someone who's going to negotiate and try to get it for them for 525 and 530.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your buyer ultimately decides, okay, fine, 540.
Mm-hmm.
I just told you that, Melissa, because I wanted you to get me 550, but I'm okay with 540.
Yeah.
But if the buyer doesn't have that person in their side, then they're going to end up signing something with you for 550, and sure, you did a heck of a job for your seller, but that buyer didn't have the representation, so to me, they're paying more.
Yeah, I agree. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Melissa Wallace, and I am the office manager here at Boston Connect Real Estate, and I am joined by Emmie Flaherty, full-time realtor here again at Boston Connect Real Estate. If you have any questions or want to join in our discussion, 781-837-4900 is the number to the studio. Give us a call. We are live on Facebook too, so I'm waving. I know there's a couple people. Michelle Faye is watching, Karen Monroe, Kim Ross. Hi.
Michelle Faye is supposed to be at Madonna right now.
No, she was at Madonna last night.
Oh, I was like, wow, that's like really ambitious. to
That's
be
ambitious.
listening to
Yeah, no,
us
she
at
was
Madonna.
she was at Madonna last night. I think she was like 2 hours late. Madonna was getting on stage.
Yikes.
Yeah, I know. Well, I saw. I was like, I wasn't like creepily following, but like I was following Michelle's like updates, being like, "No, these are our seats." Like, too bad she's not coming on. She's late and everything. And then I was listening to the radio on the way to work this morning, and they were like, "Yeah, so Madonna was pretty late last night. So hopefully she's not as late tonight." But I guess it was like long time.
Yeah.
But I heard it was good. So there you go. But yeah, so moving on to seller's agent, right?
Yes.
So
Okay.
seller's agent, tell everybody what that is.
All right. So you want to sell your house, and I hear it from a lot of people, especially when, market's hot, we have lower inventory. Like, should I sell my house myself? Obviously, I'm a realtor, and I'm going to tell you no, but I'm going to tell you no because you're missing out on a lot of opportunity and probably a lot of money. But a seller's agent is going to come out to your house. They're going to tour it with you just as if they were going to be buying it. They're going to sit down with you. They're going to show you other homes that have recently sold in the area that are comparable to what you're looking to sell. They're going to give you a ballpark for what your home is worth. And then in my case, I like to give people, like a checklist, so to speak, of, here's a few things that would make your home more presentable. Oftentimes it's like decluttering and stuff like that. And then, we talk about next steps. Here's a small checklist. A lot of times I have professionals that will come in and help with that stuff. And then we talk about going on market and what you can expect when you go on the market, because it really does vary from brokerage to brokerage and realtor to realtor as to, what's going to happen once that sign is in your front yard. But they should be running open houses for you, handling, any inquiries on the property, etc.
Oh, do we have a question? Yes, we do. Could you please explain procuring cause and how that relates to a buyer and their buyer's agent, especially if the buyer views a property at an open house, then wants to bring in a buyer's agent?
That's a fabulous question. You might have to leave it up, though. I've got to go sentence by sentence on this. Right?
Sharon, do you have anything to add to our show here? I turned that microphone off, so you might want to use mine for a minute. But yeah, so Sharon McNamara, broker owner of Boston Connect Real Estate, is joining us. She got a text message from one of our listeners. Oh, now it's now it's doing this. But great question. We will get to it in a minute. But what were you saying about the listing agent?
Yes. So once your property goes on the market, there's a variety of different things that that agent should be doing for you. And I'll tell you one thing that really bothers me is when as a buyer's agent, when I'm reaching out to go see a property that an agent has listed, this happened to me twice over the weekend. I wanted to go see 2 different properties with 2 different buyers, and the listing agent did not get back to me. I don't know why these people are in business. Like, if you want to, if you take someone's home and you are listing it and you are selling it, the very least you could do is respond to people who want to see that property. So that is frustrating. So you basically want to make sure that you're working with somebody or hiring a realtor that knows what they're doing. Is going to be responding to people who want to come out and see your property, because let's face it, the more people that see your property, the more, in theory, the more interest you're going to have in it. And then after that, what will happen is we'll discuss with you, depending on how the interest level in your property, if we maybe want to do an offer deadline if that comes into play. If not, we'll review offers with you as they come in. We will have determined that ahead of time. And then, go over offers with you and go on to next steps.
Yeah. Sharon?
Yeah. So, you can't really hear me, right?
No.
You want this one?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I could change it. Hold on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So you can take that back, Emmy. So yeah, somebody had texted me that question. But it's interesting because one of the things I was starting to type, but there is a delay on Facebook, is the conversation that you were just actually talking about. It's funny because there was a delay, and every time I was thinking of something, I guess you guys were already one step ahead of me. But I think it is really important, and especially this question, I don't even know who this is, but they are asking me the question about procuring cause and what is procuring cause. So I know you know, but I don't think maybe some of our listeners know, but I also sit on the grievance committee for Massachusetts Association of Realtors, and procuring cause tends to be one of those cases that we see a lot in arbitration. Well, and here's the truth is, and I was actually typing this upstairs as this came through, so I don't know if it's like
There's something in the universe.
my phone is like literally reading my mind now because I don't even know who this is that texted me. But just because an agent, this is what I'm finding frustrating as a listing agent. It happened to me this past weekend. An agent sent me an email and said, I will be sending my client to your open house, and gave me like their names. So when I was at my open house, and I followed up with, I will be around all weekend if you would like to set up an appointment to show the property with your client if the time that I'm having the open houses doesn't work for you. So of course they never responded back, right? Because they really don't want to take the time to go out there and actually have their boots on the ground and be a true buyer's agent. They're just looking, and again, I'm very heated about this, and it might be because I see how hard our agents work here. And the amount of work that you're doing, right? I mean, it's hard being a buyer's agent, especially when you're doing it the right way. So for this agent just to, send me an email and say, hey, listen, I'm going to send my person. Yeah. When I'm like, hey, I'm around all weekend. I'd love to meet you over there with your client to see this new construction property. Never responded. I was there on Saturday. Couple shows up, and I was like, I think that your agent had reached out to me and sent me an email that that you were coming, and they're like, we don't have an agent. And I was like, oh, it must be somebody else. I'm sorry. Like it was because it was towards the end of the open house as well too. So I just figured since nobody came, and I said, and he said no, and I was like, oh, I know it was like, and I said the person's name, which I won't say on the air, and he's like, I talked to that person once. So, you know what it is? It's my computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that so he's like, I met that person once. I don't have a relationship with that person. So honestly, this is what I want to say to people. Like, don't be bamboozled by that, oh, since I sent you there, that you have to work with me. Completely untrue. That is not true. You as a buyer can work with whoever you want to. It isn't like an agent. So this is how I look at it, and this is going to be pretty graphic. So who's in the studio tonight?
New fella.
Yes, he's new.
Oh, good. So
David, I believe.
David, he doesn't know me, so he won't get too upset with me. This is how I feel. Just because you're an agent and you send me an email, it's almost like I feel like you're lifting your leg and peeing on somebody, and you're marking your territory. And that is not how it works. And that is, the state is very specific about agency and how that works. You don't care to represent these people that you just sent. You care about a commission, and that is awful.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so sorry.
All right, so we've got to answer
Oh, yeah.
this
So,
here.
so could you please explain procuring cause and how that relates to a buyer and their buyer's agent? And that's part of the reason why I just said that. So if somebody was there and came to the open house, like I said to them when they were there, like, hey, I'm here to give value. I'm the listing agent. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're going to put an offer in with me or if you're going to put an offer in with somebody else, right? My job is to sell this property. However, if you don't have a relationship with this other agent, it doesn't matter. Like if you have a buyer agency agreement signed, that's something different. Okay. But at any point in your if you feel as if the person that you're supposedly working with isn't doing their due diligence for you, isn't working for you, you don't owe them anything. Now, I will say if maybe somebody opened up the door to a listing and let you in, that's a completely different story. But just telling somebody, hey, just go to all these open houses, and if you find a house, let me know and I'll write up the offer, that is not procuring cause.
Right.
That's you being a lazy blank agent just trying to make a commission. But if an agent does take the time to meet you, to do a little research, to open the door, show you around, follow up with questions, I would say that would be procuring cause. But if they did all that and then you followed up with more questions and said, hey, I'm interested in this. Can you get me the electric? Can you get me this? And that agent ghosts you from that point, then procuring cause is out the door. It doesn't matter. If you're trying to get in touch with them and they stopped communication with you, you can work with a buyer's somebody else. Does that answer that? Especially in the buyers view a property at an open house, but wants to bring in a buyer's agent. But you should be able to as well. So when I'm working
Yeah,
as a listing agent.
I'm just thinking of like when you're hosting an open house, a buyer coming in, like just because you're hosting an open house doesn't mean like, yes, you opened the door and you showed them the house per se. They still have the right to go to their agent and be like, hey, I want to put in an offer, put it in. Like it happens all the time. All of the time.
A friend of the show, frustrating for consumers. Okay. It's a friend of the show. So the person doesn't want to give me their name, and I respect it. I respect that 100%. Frustrating for consumers who often are the ones hurt, often part-time on the side agents. Those not willing to do the work put these folks in a terrible spot. Both buyers and sellers, sets the negotiation off to a bad spot.
Well, I'm so glad to hear someone else say that because as a realtor, I'm like, do people know? Do people know? And I mean, yeah, you know if someone's maybe not in your corner, or you talk to a friend and you hear that their agent did X, Y, and Z and the person you're working with hasn't done blank. But I'm glad that the person messaging you, the friend of the show, is saying that because it's really true. I mean, a lot of people don't know. I mean, if you listen to the show regularly, you'll hear everyone say they're a full-time realtor here. We say that for that very reason. There are a lot of agents that are part-time agents. And I understand, when I first started, I had another job, but I very quickly then was like, I want to go 100% full-time real estate, and I give it 100%.
And don't you wish you had more time?
I do.
And even that, and that's one of the things too that I talk a lot about now. I've been in the industry almost 22 years, as Mel said earlier, and it's so different for me now than it was back then, and it is for all real estate agents. And I have to give, the people who are doing this full time as your career, not only are you helping people find their home, you're doing all that process once they get it under agreement, right? So you're doing all the negotiating, you're dealing with the attorneys, and you're dealing with home inspections and all negotiating and all these great things that you would think about go with the house. But also you have to think about all the other things. We're responsible now for social media posts and because the world is telling you that you have to have a voice and be out there and do all these other things. There's a lot that goes into it, especially if you're a listing agent. People think, oh, you just put a sign on the ground. Oh, really? That is not the case. But I do, when I'm reading this, I feel bad for this person because you can tell that this person or somebody that this person knows basically got screwed by an agent that said that they were there for them. And one of the things I find most frustrating, and I will say 100% with certainty, that is not an agent that comes from Boston Connect Real Estate.
Correct.
100%. Because we support each other so well here that Emmie, if you couldn't do a home inspection, you could call me. Melissa, it happened to you today. One of our agents had a sick child. There was a final water reading. You just got up from whatever we were doing and went and did the final water reading. There's always somebody there on your behalf. But agents who aren't doing those types of things, shame on them. And again, I feel bad for the consumer.
I do too. And that's why I wanted to bring this up tonight. I mean, one of the reasons I did this topic was because I think a lot of people are going to be coming back to the market with rates coming down. And it's really important to know that you are entitled to have someone represent you on your side, even if you went to an open house and you leave there and you feel like, geez, I really liked that house and I kind of want someone in my corner. And
here's the thing. This is how I feel about the agents that won't allow it. Like I said at the beginning, it doesn't matter. I'm the listing agent on a property. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me if you use me to purchase this home or if you use somebody else, right? Because I am the listing agent. My job is to sell that house. But I'm thinking about your situation that you had this weekend.
Right.
And for that agent to be, again, we don't use names or anything, but for that agent to say, oh, no, that appointment was made with me. Well, guess what? The appointment it never happened.
Right.
It never happened. That appointment was also canceled with you and made with me.
Yeah.
So I wish I had known that story well before, because I tell you, that would have gone differently.
Well, I explained it to the consumer, and the consumer chose not to. So
because they felt intimidated by the other agent. That's
did.
exactly what happened.
Yeah. No, you're right. But and again, that's why I said, okay, I've come across something that I've seen actually a few times since, today's January 9th, and I've seen this 3 times already.
Yep.
So it's really important for people to know, and I've been putting it on my social media a lot, and I will probably sound like a broken record, but I'm just going to keep repeating it because it's very, very important.
It
Well,
is.
when you hear something over and over again, sometimes it sticks.
Hopefully it does. So if you're out there listening and you know somebody who wants to buy or sell, it's really important that they know, the representation that they are entitled to.
100. There's just, I mean, this is the biggest purchase you're going to have in your life. And right now, I'm helping one of my friends, my best friend. I think they might be watching right now, but I'm helping her sister. She went through a process down in Florida where she got bamboozled by somebody and ended up being basically a crapshoot. I want to swear so much lately, and
No.
I can't. But
Not tonight.
it ended up being a crappy situation down there in Florida. So she sort of got taken advantage of there. And then she then moved to Tennessee, and she's running into situations there. So she called me to help her, like, set up some things. And the things that I hear her saying, and I'm like, I cannot believe that an agent would do that. And I'm saying too, like, how could, and in my head, I was like, how could she not understand that? How could she not know that? I guess you don't know what you don't know. And that's why
That's
you
right.
love working with these people, first-time home buyers and people who haven't bought and sold in a lot of years. They need this education all over again.
They do. They absolutely do. I went out with a couple. They've been in their home for, she told me, close to 40 years. And we went out last week. And she was so incredibly confused why I was there and a listing agent was there. Because when they bought 40 years ago, it was just one agent. And so that again is what's kind of came up with this topic tonight, because I wanted to explain to them. And she thought it was fabulous, but she had no idea. And they thought we worked together. So we broke it down and explained it more for them, because it was my first time meeting them. But she thought it was a great concept.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
it is a great concept.
It is.
Well,
I
and
know.
the thing is the state is just so clear, and I remember too that you had shared your story with me for what happened this weekend, and again, I go into baby cud mode with like our agents that work here, and I just can't help myself. But one of the things that was so discouraging is the person, and again, because she doesn't know, she called 4 different agents, right?
Right. Yep.
So she was seeing 4 different properties with 4 different agents, which means she was giving out some of her personal confidential information to 4 different people. But the other thing is you were the only one that gave her the mandatory Massachusetts mandatory agency disclosure agreement. How can that be when she met 4?
I know. And a lot of people don't know about that. That was on the list to talk about. Anytime anyone shows you a property outside of an open house, they are to present you with that document. It's required by the state, and we can be fined for not providing it to you, discussing it to you, and showing it to you. And the kicker is the second page of that breaks down all the different agency relationships. So if you're, I'm one of those people where I need to see it in writing in front of me, just because I can hear what you're saying to me, but it's hard for me to comprehend it at first. If I see it in writing, I usually won't forget it. So I often present a lot of my stuff to people like that, because that's how I like to learn. And I said to this woman from over the weekend, I said, look here, keep this piece of paper. That's what it is intended for. Go down and look at all the different agency roles and see why I'm here today telling you the importance of a buyer's agent. But you're right. She met with 3 other realtors, and no one had presented her that form.
That happens all the time when I go to listings, and then people get like antsy thinking I'm having them sign their life away. And I assure them, I said, here's the good news. At the end of the day, you don't even have to sign this. My obligation to the state, being licensed in the state of Massachusetts, is to show it to you. Just let me do my job and what I'm required to do, but you don't even have to sign it at the end of the day. But don't you want to know what your rights are? And I don't know. I just feel, desperate people do desperate things in desperate times. I say this all the time. And I feel that because we're in a situation with low inventory and, the rates went up a little bit, but they're starting to come down, I really am fearful for buyers who potentially are going to get stuck in some of these traps, and they're going to make some decisions that may not be best for them, right?
Right.
Because we tell people all the time, like, hey, you do not have to waive your home inspection. If that is important to you, then you don't waive it. Like, we never suggest that. We have a waiver, in fact, that if you do want to do that, we have to have you sign it. Did you ever sign yours? So
What?
the waiver, I don't want to have a home inspection.
Yes, actually, I did.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell everybody that I didn't have a home inspection, but you just did.
Oh, well, you weren't listening. I don't think anybody else was either. But I mean, you went through with several people that we know, obviously, to look through the house. But yeah, I just think that, with the biggest purchase of your life, wouldn't you want to have that representation?
Right. And I was just talking about this because I closed on a house this past week with a young couple, and their concern, and everyone's is, am I overpaying for something? So I broke down the math, and in East Bridgewater for the month of December, the average price per square foot for a single family was $306. This house they got for $238 per square foot, and it really needs very minimal work. So when I put the numbers in front of them, they were thrilled because, they got a good deal. And that to me is what it's all about. Like, as a buyer's agent, I want to get you the best price that I possibly can for the home that you want. And I take a lot of pride in that.
The other thing too is, because we build such great, close relationships with our clients, they then become our friends. Chances are in 7 to 10 years that you're going to be calling us to sell your house, and we never want you to be in a position where you're upside down, right? So we want you to get, and that's the job of a buyer's agent. The job as a listing agent is to get the most amount of money with the best terms and conditions for my seller. The very opposite for a buyer's agent is for me to get you the best terms and conditions for you, but at the lowest price that we possibly can get that for you, right? So that's why. And again, you hit upon dual agency, and that gets tricky. People do come directly to us, to list, if they're going to buy something with us, to list their house and everything. They think that they're going to get a better deal or something. I don't think that that's always the way to go.
I know we have still on our agenda some of the advantages of, having that representation. And we've pretty much talked about it throughout the whole entire show, but we only have about 10 minutes left. So any key points that you wanted to make sure all of our listeners knew before the end of the show?
Use a buyer's agent. Yeah. No, there are people out there, and I get it, that, really want someone to hold their hand. And then I also understand the people that are out there that, want to work with a realtor, but also kind of want to steer the way that it goes. And I get that too, because I'm one of those people. So, just find somebody that works for you. I always say, and I mean this, talk to several people. Ask them what they have to offer you. Ask them what sets them apart. Ask them what their favorite, part of doing this is. Because that is going to answer questions for you as to, is this person going to be a good fit for me?
And I think that the person who sent me a message here too really does have a good point too, is like, ask the question, are you a full-time real estate agent? Are you a full-time realtor? Period. Amen. Because I'll tell you, showing people properties after work and on weekends, because that's generally why we're doing it for our clients. But the bigger question is who's doing all the work all those other hours when you're getting in touch with, the loan officer and the attorneys, and doing all that other stuff that happens, to keep a transaction together. You can't do it during your work hours.
Yeah, you can't do it during work hours as a buyer's agent that has another job.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what we're doing all day.
Yeah. That's what sort of the advantage of being an agent is that, like, yes, when you are full-time, like, you are full-time. Like, it's not like a 9 to 5, like, because 9 to 5, your client might be working 9 to 5. So they might not be reachable, but then they are at night. So you need to be reachable. You need to be doing showings and having open houses and stuff. So,
well, I had a new buyer consult yesterday, and awesome couple. We were talking about what they're looking for and whatnot, but one of the things I said, and I've added this in now when I consult with people, is I have so many people say to me, I don't want to bother you. And I said, this, like, it makes me feel bad to hear that, because I'm here for you from, the time we start looking till we close on the house, and then even afterwards. Like, in the storm we recently had, one of my clients texted me because they're first-time buyers, and a tree came down, and the poor thing was so upset because she didn't know what to do. The house was okay, but it took down the fence. And I'm here for you for all of that. But I said to these people, you're working during the day, so I expect to hear from you in the evenings. I don't have to hear from you in the evenings, but please don't hold off. And, they laughed and were like, well, we really appreciate that, because we probably would have held off and tried to fit it in during work hours, but that's tough. And that's what we're here for. So, that's another thing too. I'm available all the time. That's kind of the nature of the industry, really.
Yeah, I think a big thing too is the financial aspect of it and the fiduciary responsibility that we do have to our clients, because I don't think that, and I've seen this many, many a times, because again, I tend to be on the listing side of things, where Mary tends to be working with our buyers a lot. And, when it comes to your commitment letter and it comes to all these dates. And I heard a conversation the other day where somebody had a home inspection and they didn't get, I was talking to a loan officer actually, and the buyer's agent didn't fill out an extension of time for the home inspection. So they weren't able to continue to negotiate, and the person ended up losing their funds, the deposit. Then we also hear of, hey, you weren't paying attention to when this commitment letter is due. And guess what? As the listing agent, I'm never going to ask you how that commitment letter is doing, because the day I ask you is the day after it's due. That's your responsibility as a buyer's agent to remember when these dates are. And people get sort of messed up because it's like, oh, we did an extension, or we did this, or we did, but no one's really paying attention to the dates. Well, somebody better be paying attention if it's your $20,000 or more, like sitting in an escrow account somewhere, right? So that's another big part and a huge responsibility that we have, is making sure that those funds are being protected at all times. If you decide that you don't want to go forward, or you can't go forward, if you can't get a mortgage commitment, then you can't go forward, so you can get your money back.
You asked me if I got a commitment, just for the record.
Yeah, I know, but that was sort of different.
Yeah, we only have about 5 minutes left, so I want to give you another opportunity to give your contact information out to all of our listeners and how they can sort of find you all over the place. You're all over social media, which is great.
I try.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, great job. You guys were doing a great job. I'm sorry that I just bombarded your show, but this was such a good topic. And the person who sent a message, I was upstairs watching you guys on Facebook, but you did a great job, and I'm super proud of you. And why don't you tell her what we were talking about tonight for the luncheon? We can let the world know right now.
Oh, I wish I had my paper in front of me, so I knew exactly which one it was.
Units.
Yeah, so Emmie Flaherty is the number 2 top producing agent when it comes to units for the year of 2023. So she will be celebrating with us. Hopefully on Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
will be your lunch.
Day.
It'll be your lunch.
It's our luncheon, yep.
Yeah,
so.
we have our little luncheon every year on Valentine's Day for all of our top producing agents, individual agents and teams. So
you came in second for individual agents.
How
so
exciting.
congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you want to get in touch with Emmie, how can they get in touch with you?
Many ways, but phone is 781-217-4580. You can call or text, and then I hope to be all over social media, but I'm on Instagram and Facebook, both as Realtor Emmie Flaherty. And I would love to hear from you, even if you just have some follow-up questions from tonight.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think if there was one takeaway from the show, it's have representation, whether you're a buyer or a seller. I mean, we could do a whole entire show on, having representation as a seller and sort of how that could go sideways as well. But yeah, I mean, if you want to get in contact with Emmie, one more time, your phone number?
781-217-4580.
Perfect. Any final thoughts, ladies?
Emmie at bostonconnect.com.
It is.
Yeah, so easily to get in touch with her. I just want to say thanks for letting me bombard your show. It was such a great topic. And I was upstairs and I was like, there's a lot of shows that we talk over and over. And if you haven't listened to any of our past shows, please go to talkrealestateroundtable.com or Talk Real Estate Roundtable for the podcast app, so you can listen to some of our past shows. But then there are times when I'm upstairs and I'm just like, I just want to say this. I just want to say this. And you guys, this was a great topic and so timely for what's ahead of us for 2024. So I agree. If you want representation, call Emmie. She's the best of the best. She came in. She won an award. She's winning an award. She's the first to find out.
Yeah, you're the first to find out of anybody. Well, technically you were, but yeah,
I was the first.
First to find out. But I mean, like we said in the beginning of the show, with the interest rates coming down, there's going to be more buyers like coming back into the market and being introduced to the market. And if the number of homes on the market don't increase, there's definitely going to be a lot more competition. So why not have representation so you can keep your ducks in a row and in order and have open communication with somebody representing your best interests.
And I think that that's a good thing too, Mel, that you're bringing up too, is if we end up in the same place with the low inventory and multiple offers and just the buyer fatigue, you definitely want someone who's there to sort of hold you through the process and say, don't worry, this is quote unquote normal. This is the process. It wasn't meant to be. This wasn't the one. How can we make your offer better? Like, that's what you want. That's who you want working for you and representing you through the whole process.
Yeah, I agree. Sharon, what are we talking about on Saturday?
I don't know yet, but this is like when I'm so used to you saying it's time to go that I feel like, and then the music is in my ear, and I was like, this really feels like the last minute of a Super Bowl game that lasts 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, our music is playing, but
Yeah.
but yeah, no, we are going to be live again on Saturday from 8 to 9, and we'll have a topic beforehand.
Yeah, we'll have a topic. Well, let's talk about, we can talk about sellers, or we can, I know, we had a great topic last week too. We were talking about rentals and stuff, and had a lot of, we'll come up with something good, but you have to tune in.
Yeah. Well, follow us on social media, Boston Connect Real Estate, McNamara Horton Team, Emmie Flaherty Realtor.
Yeah. And if you're listening and you want to hear us talk about something, shoot us a message.
Yeah.
Come on in and talk.
Come on in and talk. Thank you so much for listening to us tonight. Again, we're live again on Saturday from 8 to 9. We will see you then. Thanks,
Have
Emmie.
a great
Thank you,
night. Good
guys.
job, ladies. Good job. That was a great topic.
Yeah,
What a great question.
it was. I really thought it was a realtor.
I thought it was too.